this IRN alongside Professor Elizabeth Koslewski from Stanford University, who's here, of course, with us. Our IRN was established back in July 2023, and it involves universities from 12 countries: Australia, Austria, England, Indonesia, Italy, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Portugal, Spain, Sweden, and the USA. And we also have colleagues working in doing research in other countries such as China, India, Nigeria, and the Philippines. And the purpose of these international networks is to bring together researchers from various parts of the world and to examine the state of research around a specific topic, in our case, students' voices in schools, and stimulate collaborations and identify other directions of research of worldwide significance. And today, this is our last seminar for this academic year by two colleagues from University of Vic in Catalonia, Spain, and both founding members of the IRN. So I'd like to introduce our colleagues. Laura Farré-Riera, an associate professor of education at Faculty of Education, Translation, Sports and Psychology, University of Vic, Central University of Catalonia. She is a member of the research group, Educational Research Group, and her main research areas of interest are based on democracy, active citizenship, inclusive education, students' voices, and their participation within school context. And Núria Simó-Gil, a tenured professor of pedagogy at the same faculty and head of the Center of Research in Education at the University of Vic, Central University of Catalonia. And her current research interests are educational and social inclusion of young people, teacher identity, processes of democracy, participation, and active citizenship in education. The title of their presentation is Improving Conviviality by Means of Students' Voice for Equity and Democratization in Schools, Opportunities and Challenges. Some logistics before we start. Please keep your microphones off while we listen to the presentation. Type any questions or thoughts in the chat. We will be monitoring that. And you can also ask your questions when we have the discussion at the end. We are only recording the presentation part, and the whole session will be 1 hour in total. So over to Laura and Núria.
Okay, thank you very much, Kiki, and hello, everybody. I will share the screen, and we are going to start.
Perfect.
Okay. With our talk, improving conviviality by means of students' voice for equity and democratization in schools, opportunities and challenges, we want to share with you the research work we are doing with a Catalan public primary school with pupils aged from 3 to 11. Our presentation will be organized in 4 main sections. We'll begin with the background to research, where we explain who we are, the context of our research topic, and the key concepts developed. Then we'll go through the main highlights and progress made during 23 and 24 research year, followed by our current focus and developments in this research year. And finally, I will share some of the main challenges we faced as researchers, reflecting on what we've learned along the way. Firstly, I'd like to introduce the 3 researchers of this involved in this project. First of all, Laura and me, we are members of the research group of educational research, and Jesus, and who belongs to the group of research group on attention to diversity. Now I will introduce the school, and the school is in a town with around 20,000 inhabitants. It is one of the 5 primary schools in the municipality, and it attends 352 families and 429 students. It has 2 groups per grade with a triplicate 5th grade. The students mostly come from lower middle income families. In terms of pedagogical discourse, the school goals about social cohesion are to promote values of a democracy, a society, co-education, pluralism and equity, to foster peace and respect for human rights, and to work on values, education, and emotional learning. In terms of pedagogical discourse, the school goals about about learning and academic outcomes are to promote excellence and the quality of education, to address diversity and ensure the inclusion of all students, and to encourage the use of learning and knowledge technologies. So at Guerau de Liost School, they believe education is not only about acquiring knowledge, but also about building a more inclusive, respectful, and democratic society. The collaboration between the University of Vic and this school began during the last year when the management team let us know their concern of coexistence with the 2 groups from the 2nd year of primary school, age 8 to 9 years old. They wanted to reduce conflicts among pupils and improve their cohesion. Now Elizabeth introduced the video where a school principal explained us how the research began. Now maybe. Do you listen? No, no.
We cannot hear the voice.
Mystery. The mysteries of technology. We can read. No.
Frozen, isn't it? It's not just the voice, it's
no. Elizabeth, maybe you need to open your microphone.
I think you have to choose, when you share, you have to choose advanced.
No, I think Núria is also right. Elizabeth, you are on mute, so we cannot hear it.
El grup que va patir la pandèmia.
Perfecte.
Llavors, potser això és un punt d'estudi de si realment això va afectar o com va afectar a la cohesió del grup. Bé, doncs, bueno, des d'infantil vam detectar problemes de cohesió, problemes de comportament en el grup de molts dels alumnes. També vaig a dir que els 2 segons, actualment els tercers, l'alumnat que forma aquest grup són alumnes amb unes necessitats educatives especials. Tenim un gran percentatge de l'alumnat que són NSA i DCB. Nosaltres també pensem que això és un indicador que ens alerta de la dificultat potser d'aquesta cohesió. Bé, doncs detectar les dificultats i buscant estratègies i pensant com podíem revertir la situació i no trobant solució, vam posar aquest tema sobre la taula amb la nostra referent de l'EAT, la Núria Simó-Gil. Llavors, li vam explicar què és el que ens passava, què és el que ens preocupava, i vam demanar ajuda de com poder revertir aquesta situació.
Thanks. So, after her explanation, we agree with the management team how we can start this research. And the research objectives are these 4 goals, no? Listening to children's voices to improve school climate and, in consequence, teaching and learning processes, support the teachers in a systematic process of analyzing and improving the school by incorporating the voices of the students towards a democratic culture, establish a democratic dialogue between students and teachers to make decisions about which educational actions can be carried out, and collect the impact of the participatory and democratic process in the incorporation of educational actions for the improvement of a school. Our theoretical framework is based on a democratic and inclusive school, focused on students' voices and participation. So the definition of these three concepts are key for our research. First of all, related to democracy, we defined 4 dimensions as key concepts to analyze everyday school practices: governance, atmosphere, diversity, and ethos. Governance, which involves participation of community members in all the bodies and processes related to decision making. Atmosphere, as the quality of shared life, where everyone feels safe with agency to participate in the school community. Diversity, regarding the recognition of everybody, including who belong to a minority or are unconventional, to promote this idea of conviviality. These 3 dimensions requires a 4th transversal dimension, is ethos, understood as the humanistic values and virtues needed to make democracy possible. So, atmosphere is a dimension to ensure participation in the school and change relationship, cultures, and daily life, and is important to be based on the school project. Related to inclusion, we share the idea of UNESCO that inclusion is a basic condition for building democratic societies based on justice and equity. A school can be defined as inclusive when it promotes and guarantees the presence, participation, and success of all students. The improvement of the school towards more inclusive scenarios involves to listen and to recognize the voices of the students. And so in our research, to recognize the students' voices means to consider them as agents of change for the promotion of the school, and not only as informants. Finally, related to understand student voice and participation, we are based on the Convention of the Rights of the Child, of course, and this concept include verbal and non-verbal forms of expression, dialogue, listening, and shared responsibility, and legitimize students' interest and their transformative potential. These 3 ideas These 3 ideas are important, and these 3 concepts, are interrelated, and involves that the process of teachers is to transform the school in these 3 aspects are complex and is an endless process. So it's important to create school structures where students in equal opportunities can be part of the process of analysis, reflection, and decision-making. So now Laura is going to tell us how our research was conducting during the two research years. Laura?
Thanks, Núria. Thanks. Yeah, I would like to continue talking about how the research project we developed during the 23-24 academic year was implemented. The first point to address is the nature of the class group. In this case, it was a lacking group cohesion, characterized by behavioral issues, disrespect among peers, and a high degree of individualism. And the students didn't work collaboratively, and this situation impacted not only the overall well-being, but also their learning process. As you can see here in this slide, thanks Núria, we start with a negotiation with the school management team. For us, before starting any process of recognizing the students' voices, one of the most important things is to have the commitment to improve and transform the school through the points of view and experiences of children. And this is the way we start with meeting with the school leadership team to negotiate this idea. After that, we carried out 2 participatory activities to listen to the voices of the students and also to initiate a reflective dialogue about the reality of the group. We wanted to address the problems they were facing and what everyone could do to help promote a more harmonious and respectful learning environment. Regarding the reflection session with the teachers, the aim was to offer a space of discussion about the reality of the group. And we identified that this activity also allowed them to share concerns, doubts, and also strategies that they use individually to foster group cohesion. And finally, we did several sessions to return the results, the reflections that we carried out to the various agents and, of course, students too. In these images, you can see some of the activities we carried out. We know some of them, such as Diamond 9 technique or photoelicitation, and we finished the academic year with the creation of a shared mural by all members of the group. As researchers, one of the conclusions drawn from this academic year is that educators require more collaborative pedagogical reflection among them. This occurs informally in corridors, so there is a lack of designated time to consolidate routines and also pedagogical dynamics. Also, we identified a greater emphasis on a student's personal development rather than focusing only on academic outcomes. There is a need for deeper reflection on the educational relationship between teachers and students. And we identified some challenges faced by specialists in managing diverse student group. They often don't have an in-depth understanding of the students and lack dedicated spaces to collaborate with tutors or the other teachers. And all these issues have contributed to the desire to continue and expand these efforts in the following academic year. So the main purpose of continuing this research in this year 24-25 academic course is to begin a process of improving teaching and educational practices by viewing students from a different perspective. So our goal as researchers has been to explore how educational improvement can be promoted within the school, and not only by focusing on student well-being, which is the main thing, but also by enhancing teaching and learning processes and recognize the students as active agents of change, of reflection, and of course, of improvement. And to make this process more systematic, it has been consolidated as an internal training program with structured spaces and times, an official professional development recognition for the teaching staff. So the training ran from September to June. And the most significant development this year is that the school has committed to expanding the project from year 1 to year 3. This process aims to support teachers and specialists in reflection on how to listen to students' voices to promote emotional well-being in the classroom and also through the school. And for the reason, we identified 3 specific objectives. The first was to listen to student voices to improve coexistence, conviviality, school climate, and also try to work on teaching and learning processes. Also to support teachers in a systematic process of a school analysis and improvement, and how we can do it incorporating student voices to move towards a democratic school culture, and to establish a democratic dialogue between teachers and students, and enable them to make joint decisions on educational actions that promote emotional well-being. So the training follows a defined structure consisting of a working session at the school where researchers and teachers discuss together about which kind of actions they can carry out and how to continue developing and planning new initiatives. We talk about these activities, how these activities can be implemented, and which kind of evidence would be useful to document and assess the process. And on the other hand, there is an individual work in which each teacher implements the proposed actions, collects the evidence, and also reflects on the process and activities that she has or he had done. The first activity was with teachers to reflect on their teaching practice. That is why we proposed or formulate 3 unfinished sentences. You can see here in this slide. Regarding what teachers do that tends to work well, several key strategies stand out to promote well-being and conviviality among peers. First, maintaining patience is essential when working with groups. We know that, especially in diverse classroom settings. Positive reinforcement is also a highly effective tool as it helps to motivate the students and build a supportive learning environment. Also, teachers often use class assemblies or group discussion to share doubts. Also, they identified that it's really important establishing daily routines. This is crucial to maintaining structure and stability. And finally, providing short, clear, and structured instructions also helps students stay focused. Teachers have expressed several key concerns for the current school year. For instance, the disruptive behavior of certain students. This affects the classroom climate and the conviviality, and also the dynamic between students. Also, children who appear socially isolated and tends to play alone, showing signs of being excluded from the group. The challenge of fostering a calm and peaceful atmosphere within the class group. Also, difficulties in recognizing and addressing students' emotional needs. And they share some concerns related to how to manage toxic relationship between students. And the challenge identified by teachers in promoting group cohesion reflect both individual and collective dynamics within the classroom. And in this case, the responses were the need to foster a student's self-confidence and autonomy, helping them feel secure, also encouraging mutual respect, active listening, and also the improvement of interpersonal communication among peers. I think that we have an open microphone. I go ahead. Also ensuring that all students are included during play, group and activities with a clear, real focus on preventing exclusion. They identified the need for more individualized meetings to understand each student's personal context and also their social emotional needs, and how to address the lack of empathy observed in some students. So after that, the first activity carried out with the students aimed to reflect on their emotional well-being. And some of the questions posed to them were, what would I like my group to be like? Or what can I contribute individually to help everyone feel good and happy in the group? Each teacher in this case was able to use different formats and approaches. It depends on their dynamic. And in this image, you can see some examples of the activities carried out with them. After that, we did a second activity with the students, and the main goal was to identify with teachers spaces, structures, and projects where the systematic recognition of student voices could be integrated to promote this context of group cohesion. And once these spaces were identified, contexts for debate and decision-making with the students were created to discuss how to improve as a group. Now I'm going to explain 2 examples. First of all, in this image that you can see here, there is the first activity, la colla castellera. The castellers are a traditional Catalan cultural practice involving the construction of human towers. Teams, in Catalan we know that as colles, work together to form a human structure with the aim of building a tower as tall as possible. In fact, this tradition is recognized by UNESCO, and it requires teamwork, balance, strength, and also coordination. And this is what they should reach as a group, cooperation, mutual respect, and teamwork to achieve a common goal. Another example was the project We Feel the Emotions of the Center, in which they work on emotions. The main goal was to try to move from the individual to the collective perspective. And they had to identify different spaces within the school, such as classroom, playground, school canteen, library, or music room, among others, and reflect on how they felt and why. And they worked before some emotions, and after that they did this activity. Here we want to share with you a reflection from a teacher that she expressed the reality of her group. And she says, as a teacher, I felt frustrated because despite all the effort made during the first term, the group still haven't achieved the main goal, sitting properly on their chairs and listening attentively. I still had to constantly repeat this reminder, and honestly, I was tired of doing it. So I decided to listen to student voice and ask them, what solution could we find to help improve this? And their responses surprised me. Many of them said, that's easy, just make the research artist's face. This was a strategy that they worked in during our class, and she explains us that for them, it made perfect sense. She says, if I made that facial expression, they would know it was time to pay close attention and listen actively. Since then, we have incorporated this nonverbal cue into the classroom, and it has worked. Now, with just one gesture, the students are reminded of their commitment, and the classroom environment has improved. And it was quite interesting because she felt really, really frustrated. And it was really interesting to know her opinion. And now we want to share with you another testimony, that of Paula. She's a teacher who has been working with us for the past 2 academic years. And what she has gained as a teacher doing this project of recognizing the student voices. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Ara mateix tot això fa que ells fomenti el respecte. I a mi com a docent m'ha fet canviar la meva metodologia d'activitat segons les seves necessitats i segons com ells se senten emocionalment. Perquè així, tot això fa que canviï el clima de la classe i les relacions.
We'll share with you the presentation again. Great.
You want me to share it again?
No, we are okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
On this slide, you can see a comparison between the 2 academic years. And first, we want to discuss the structure. In this year, a recognized training format for the teacher has been sought, with quality spaces and time allocated for this purpose. Also, the class group and teaching staff have been expanded, moving towards a school-wide culture that acknowledges the voice of the students. Secondly, last year, the teachers assumed a passive role, mainly as observers. And this year, our role as researchers has been really, really different, because teachers have taken an active role in designing, planning, and implementing actions. And in doing so, they have become a real agent, active agent of the process, and allow them to adopt a more horizontal position with the children. And we don't have the voices of the students, because these months we are going to collect them, so we cannot share with you the results about the student voices, but we are going to do it. And now Núria will conclude the presentation by highlighting some of the opportunities and challenges of the entire process.
Thanks, Laura. Sorry, because now, no. Well, after Laura's talk, I'd like to highlight some opportunities we have created with our research work. Although teachers often expect recipes or specific activities to carry out with the children, we didn't provide them. Our goal is to identify how, within their established teaching practices and lesson plans, they can create new spaces and structures to recognize the students' voices in the decision-making process. Teachers began to develop a complex process that involves listening to what they say, recognizing the meaning behind their statements, deliberating on the various proposals that emerge, sharing reflections with the children, and making joint decisions. All this process tends to be an act of democratizing the educational process itself. We have challenges also, and we, in these 2 years of our research project, we are trying to move from the action, a specific activity, to the reflection about the role of pedagogical relationship based on student voices, share their feelings and the teacher role in this new complex process of creating or adapting new spaces and structures, to deliberate and transform the school culture linked to the ability for teachers to have a voice and the ability to act in her or agency. To agency for teachers is difficult also, and they need a safe, welcoming, and inclusive culture that embrace their individual and collective voices. And this idea help us to make more reflections. If we to see future challenges, if we want to promote collaborative learning school culture, we need time in the schools, is the first condition, but not only time. All teachers' teams needs building trust and establishing relationships based on support, encouragement, and safe landing in taking risks. In this framework, in this figure, we can see that in the top, we can see the school culture is all the iceberg, okay? And in the top on this iceberg, we can find a school climate. But this idea, the characteristics, the factors that they are changing or influencing in the school climate is just below the surface. We need to create in the school this idea of collective responsibility and action. But this question interacts with all these factors that we show in this framework. And in the middle of all these factors, we highlight 4 of them. First of all, if we want to respect teacher voice and agency, we think that 4 factors are important. First of all, empowerment. The teachers who are empowered can impact school culture by identifying problems and instituting positive change. autonomy also, because autonomy allows teachers to have a high degree of freedom in make decisions and connected to their daily work. But also we highlight efficacy, self-efficacy in terms of individual teachers' needs to solve problems in everyday in their everyday life, but they can construct a collective efficacy, believing and sharing their possibilities to create meaningful change. Well, with these ideas, we have identified that change teachers' perspectives on a student's voice is complex to change, and if maybe it is necessary to change different factors which are involved in this school culture. In this case, we think about teacher voice and agency, autonomy, collective efficacy, empowerment, and self-efficacy. So in the middle of this idea, we can open the debate that with these questions. How, as a researchers, how can we support teachers to improve collaborative learning cultures, and what kind of impact we can imagine we can help teachers to develop at minimum this kind of factors. Okay. Thank you very much for your attention, and now we can open the debate. Thank you.
That was a fabulous presentation. Thank you for all the images and the voices of the two people from your school that talked. That was really lovely too, and seeing the photographs, what the kids did with their teachers. And what I really want to know is, what is the artist's face that we're supposed to use to impress children to listen?
It just was activity to make different kind of faces to express different emotions. And it depends on the face. It expresses that they must do one activity, or to pay attention, or to listen closely, peers or whatever. But this action appears from the students' voices. They decided to do that. And teachers one day just tried, was really exhausted about the situation, and just tried to listen to them and let's go ahead. And the result was really good for everybody, for students firstly, and also for teachers too. It was interesting because, in fact, teachers ask us for specific activities as an external project to their teaching practice. And our purpose with Jesus, Núria, and me is how to accompany them in the reflection of how to incorporate in their planning, in their programming, this new perspective shared with the students. But as Núria said, this generates many uncertainties, doubts, and concerns, and we try to work with them about that. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks to both of you. Mel asked a really interesting question that was on my mind too, and that's the role of the school director, or whatever you call we call them principals in the US, in creating a school culture in which this is possible. Mel, does that kind of capture what you were asking? Okay.
Yes. The director of the school, the principal is really involved in this, in the idea that they need spaces of reflection in a school, and they began the collaboration began because they are really worried about the problems of conviviality. It's true that now I think the best important thing, one of the best important things, is the idea that they are thinking about ourselves, themselves, about teachers, not only about the problems, the children problems. They think that they can do anything about to change the relationship with them. That is really important. And I think the management team has shared this idea. Another question is how teachers can incorporate this idea, this belief. Not is only is an idea. It's a belief that I need to share, to act in a different way, no? To have another possibility to include everybody, minimum, and to listen to all the voices and to make some kind of decision together. So the process is really long, and we don't know how this kind of relationship can be stable at the school. Now with